the fall curriculum, the curriculum of your life. Once we graduate, do we keep learning? Do we really learn the things that we want to learn? Well, this right now, which is kind of a trend that I'm jumping onto, is your chance, is all of our chance to actually learn the things that we want to learn. It's very easy. I'll tell you how to go about it. I'll tell you how I will approach it, or have been approaching it because I already started. Let's go for it. So the reality is that after we graduate, a lot of us don't really learn that many new things, at least ones outside of our job, like things we have to do for our job. So this is the opportunity to change that. And not only to change it, but to do it at your pace. That is the beauty of not being enrolled in a course or anything like that. You can pace it the way that it fits into your life, so you don't ever have to be stressed. You don't ever have to feel pressured. You can just learn and have fun with it. How do you go about it? Of course, there's a different approach for everyone. I have seen multiple videos on this topic and everyone goes about it slightly differently. Here is what I think is a good approach, and that is to pick 1 to 3 subjects, depending on how much time you have and how much you want to learn, that you will focus on for this semester, because that makes it easier to organize. These should be, or can be, nothing should or has to be in this. That's the good thing about it. These can be academic subjects, more knowledge-based topics. For example, I am picking Korean culture and history as one, and as the other psychology, because those are 2 things I find fascinating. I wrote my master thesis on Korean music because I have a master's degree in music, and I got to dive into Korean culture and history a little bit for that, but I feel like I want to know more. I'm also learning Korean, but I'm not including that in the curriculum because that's something I've been doing for a while. Having topics or subjects the way you did in university or in school kind of makes it a little bit easier to organize. For example, I have these 2 subjects, and it's pretty easy to then go in and be like, oh, these are, I don't know, pick 1 or 2 topics or 2 to 3 topics for each month, depending on how much time you have, and be like, oh, for example, this week I want to learn about psychopaths. Another week I want to learn about autism and ADHD in women, and so forth. This is focused on what you want to learn. These are things that I will cover while I am learning in this fall semester. I've already started on the psychopaths because I find that just fascinating. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So pick however many topics or subjects you think will fit with your time. And we're getting to how to subsection those in a moment and how to approach it a little more clearly. Then I personally also think it's a good idea to have electives if you have the time for them. And these electives are more like either excursions or something creative, something that is fun, something you really would have liked to have in school but you didn't have. For example, going people watching at cafes or at the park and writing things down. This is something I want to do as a writer. This helps me get inspired, just sitting there, people watching, jotting some things down, describing people, how they look, how they act. Obviously, I'm not going to be writing down what they say. Like, we're not stalking people here, okay? As I was already saying, you can draw, you can sketch, you can go to museums or galleries. You can, one other thing that I want to do is I want to focus on cooking slightly more diversely. At least twice a month for Sundays, I want to have a recipe ready. A recipe preferably from a different cuisine than my own, Austrian, and cook that. So obviously you have to plan a little bit ahead of time, which you will have to do a little more or less depending on, you know, if you're just going to a museum, you just have to check if it's open. For cooking, baking, and these kinds of things, you have to plan a bit better. Once you have chosen your more academic subjects and your electives, if you want to have them, we go to how do you find the material for that? How do you subsection it? what do you do now, essentially? So the first thing to do is, and I already kind of said this, you find the topics in this large, broad topic that are interesting to you. You can do a Google search, you can go through a Wikipedia page, for example, if you're going to look at the history and culture of a country, you can look at Wikipedia and be like, oh, I want to know more about this. For example, for me, when I think about the culture and history of South Korea, I am not like, I want to know more about the Korean War. I already know a good bit about this. This is something I already focused on in the past. I want to focus on the different areas they had, like Silla, Baekje, Chosun, and so forth. I want to focus on different aspects of their culture. I want to focus on, for example, one of the topics I want to cover is feminism and misogyny in the South Korean culture. Yeah, that's a prickly topic. But find topics within this larger topic that you find interesting. You can either cover, depending on how much time you have, you can either cover one topic each month or one every other week, or if you have the time, one every week. But just make sure you're not overburdening yourself. Give yourself enough time off, and especially like when Christmas holidays come and around New Year's, give yourself a good bit of time off. Like plan in that you're probably not going to be doing as much then. Make sure that this stays fun and it's not so fast paced that you're probably going to throw in the towel within a month or two. That's not what you want to do. For your more academic subjects, you will probably want to create a reading list once you have your subjects. Create the reading list. There are a few things that I would recommend when you're going about this, and one of them is Google Scholar. You can definitely find a good few articles and papers that you can read on the specific topics there for free very quickly. Then I would also recommend checking out your local library if you live especially if you live like in a city. If you're living in a town, the local library is really small. Maybe they're not going to have anything on your topic. Of course, you can also go to the bookstore or buy one or two books if you have the money and if you feel like that's the right thing to do. You can also, if you live in a bigger city, like a university city, a college town, something like that. I don't know if this is a thing internationally, but where I live in my country in Austria, everybody who lives in this city, like is a permanent resident of the city, can get a library card here. They can all go and get the books that the entire university has, with a few exceptions that are not borrowable. Nobody can borrow them except a select few professors. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of books that are specifically academically focused at your fingertips. And often if you get access to a library, not just an academic library, but also this is often the case with city libraries, you also get access to an online catalog. So sometimes you can get ebooks. For the universities, you often have access to like JSTOR or just generally ebooks and papers that you can download for free. Check that out. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. I can totally recommend. Of course, you can get a JSTOR subscription to JSTOR. For example, JSTOR. JSTOR has like millions upon millions of articles and papers, like so much. Create a reading list, but make it reasonable again. I know I'm telling y'all this a lot. If you have one topic each week and you have like 5 papers that you want to read for each topic or 2 books per week, that's probably not feasible, especially if you're working a full-time job and you have hobbies and you have a life. Be reasonable with your time. Maybe sometimes it's better to have fewer subtopics for your topic and give yourself a little bit more time to read it and to have maybe a few more articles that you can read and absorb than to really push through and go fast. Because the good thing about this whole curriculum of your life is you can take the same class again next year and for the next 10 years if you want to. And you'll know everything about the topic by then probably. So don't push yourself too much because you're not running out of time. Unlike with university where there's deadlines all the time. It is good to have some deadlines in this too, otherwise people can get a bit too lax with it and stop doing things, but don't pressure yourself. You now have your topics, you have your reading list. Now it's time, if you want to and if you need to go supply shopping. I already did this. I bought 2 things. I'll show you a clip. I think it's good to have a designated folder or notepad where you can keep your things for the curriculum of your life, for each semester or for each year, depending on how many articles you read. So get a folder or a notepad, or perhaps you need both. Also, if you need any supplies for your electives, like if you're doing something art related, this is the time to also write these down and then go shop for them. If you have one of your electives be something like cooking or baking, prepare the recipes. You can be more spontaneous with this too. Like every Thursday you find a recipe and then you write down all the things you need for it. And then on Friday or Saturday you go shop, and on Sunday you make it. Have fun with it, you know? If you don't need any supplies, but you still want to go out and buy a little something and you have the money for it, you can always go buy a highlighter, like a fun new color that you've never had before, or a glitter pen. Glitter pens are really fun and very pretty, and 1 or 2 of them can brighten up your life and your learning process a lot more than you think. I speak from experience. Glitter pens and highlighters are fun. So again, as I already said, this is an optional point. This is not something you have to do, but this is definitely something you can do. Then we get to the actual studying process. If you want to, you can involve a cozy ritual as you start your practice, as you start your learning. That can be lighting a candle, that can be making yourself a cup of tea, wrapping yourself in your favorite blanket, curling up in a place that is very comfortable for you. Find what works for you, because this is the fall semester. If you don't make it cozy now, when are you going to make it cozy? Another small thing that maybe doesn't apply to everyone, but probably to a few. Make sure you allocate some time in your calendar. Block out some time in your calendar for your little study sessions or your excursions, your baking sessions, whatever you are doing. It's very easy for these kinds of things to get lost over time just because you get busy with other things. And then you're like, oh, I actually wanted to say this topic, but now I'm behind on this because I skipped last week because I hadn't allocated the time, or I forgot about it. So just block the time in your calendar. Block some dedicated time in your calendar each week or every other week, depending on how you're going about it. Set yourself a reminder. You've got this. And the last thing is, have fun with it. Enjoy it. I know that from school and university, we often learn that learning is just pressure. A lot of learning is not fun. We have to do it. We have to grind ourselves to the bone, and the results are not always what we want. Here, the only result you will have is you will learn new things. You will immerse yourself deeper in topics that you enjoy. There is no pressure. You don't have to pressure yourself. Grow smarter, and perhaps this goes for me too. Keep us away from our phones a little more. Learning is fun if you make it so. And I know that this doesn't always apply to like school and university. It didn't for me either, even though I loved studying and I was a really good student. That's why it's important for us to rediscover learning in a way that is beautiful for us, that is comfortable for us, and that takes the pressure, the competition. A lot of self-loathing can come with it too. It takes all of that out of it because you're not competing with anyone. Not even with yourself. There is no competition. You're just doing it. You're just existing and vibing. Embrace the vibes. Embrace the beautiful fall learning vibes. If you are a Gilmore Girls watcher, The Rory Gilmore fall is yours. Take it. If you're going to partake in the fall curriculum or the curriculum of your life, please tell me down in the comments one of the subjects or all of them that you would like to do. It doesn't all have to happen this semester, but the topics you would like to get to. For me, I'm currently doing Korean culture and history and psychology. I will definitely want to take another round of psychology because I find psychology very fascinating. There's also a lot of other topics like feminist history, for example, that I would love to dive in, but that's something maybe for next semester. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. HSV or something.